welcome to this week's edition of Pickin' and Puttin'. Dr. Z here with Liberty Bill from the corporate studios in Charlotte, North Carolina. Hey, Bill, how you doing, man?
I'm a little sore. I've been raking up all these pine needles that the previous owners left in our house, but spring is in the air, so it's all good.
Yeah, the daffodils are in bloom in North Carolina for all you folks who are still got snow on the ground, but here we go. Winter's coming. Well, we got a baseball theme today. You got any shout outs you want to do?
Yeah, actually, first shout out, Trey Mancini. I was sitting down Sunday evening, turned on the TV to watch a little baseball, and I caught his first at bat. He was out last year recovering from stage 3 colon cancer. Wow. And in his first at bat, he ripped a single right up the middle. The fans that were there gave him a standing ovation. It was a cool moment. So shout out to Trey for recovering and back on the field this year.
Hey, good for you, Trey, man. That's awesome. I mean, that's just cool. Gives me shivers. Yeah, I got 2 shout outs for baseball week. I got Harry Carey, which I didn't have any big glasses to wear, but I would have worn them if I had any. And then John Fogerty. We'll get to why we're calling out John Fogerty in a minute. Well, let me start it out. So we wanted to talk baseball music. So I got 2 songs I bring up. Take Me Out to the Ball Game and Put Me in Coach, which is actually called Center Field. But let's just go with the first one. Take Me Out to the Ball Game was a song written in 1908, okay? And the 2 guys who wrote it are John Norworth and Albert von Tilzer. Of course, those just slip right off the tip of your tongue. I know that. Well, interestingly enough, neither one of them had ever attended a baseball game before they wrote the song. Okay.
Really?
No. And the funny thing about it was the opening verse. Here's the good part. You got to hear the opening verse. Katie Casey was baseball mad, had the fever and had it bad. And you know why they sang this? It was sang that the people who sang this were young women who weren't allowed into the game. So they would stand outside the baseball venues and sing that verse to try to get into the men's baseball venue.
Wow. So I'd heard that verse before, but I never knew the context. That makes complete sense. And I get why they dropped it.
Well, 1900, 1912, women's rights were on the forefront, right to vote and all that stuff. So it makes sense. It's kind of a cool.
That's a good nugget.
Yeah, that's a good nugget. The other one I got was John Fogerty wrote, Put Me in Coach.
Oh, wait, I have a question on Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
Oh, yeah, go.
Did you get any clarification on the plural form of Cracker Jack? Because a lot of people get that wrong. They say Cracker Jacks with an S. But my understanding is the plural form of Cracker Jack is Cracker Jack. So it's buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack, not buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
Well, hell, everybody screws up the lyrics on every song you've ever sung, so that makes total sense. I mean, I won't even go there with, there's some song. I'm not going there. I had one that came to mind. But anyways, yeah, I had not clarified that, but that's, I think you're right. I was going to say, did they spell it J-A-X, but that wouldn't make, it was J-A-K. You're right. Take me peanuts.
Everybody gets that one wrong.
Oh yeah. Everybody. I'd say if you sat in Wrigley Field and listened, it would be 99% S, right? Unless you're a pure aficionado, maybe Harry. I'd have to listen to Harry replay.
But that is one of my favorite traditions. I don't care what ballpark I'm at, for everybody to but up and sing that little silly song and stretch out before the end of the game. I love it.
Yeah, I tried to find where that became the 7th inning midpoint, but it's been 100 years. I mean, it started back in the era of the Yankees and the 20s. So who knows? The other one I had was John Fogerty. He had a song he wrote called Center Field. He's a baseball nut. And he wrote it, I think, in 84.
So this was after his Creedence Clearwater Revival days.
Yeah, and his vision was he was watching a game, and he envisioned the guy sitting on the bench who was a secondary guy who wanted to be a star and wanting to get in the game. And I think part of the impetus was, like Lou Gehrig's length, and what's the guy, Wally Pipp?
Yeah, Wally Pipp.
Yeah.
You got Wally Pipped.
Yeah, you got Wally Pipp. And so he's got DiMaggio, Ty Cobb, and Willie Mays are in the song. But here's an interesting thing. So it was written in 85. It was called Center Field. And it became even more famous in 2010 at the Hall of Fame induction of Whitey Herzog and Andre Dawson. And was Andre Dawson a center fielder?
No, primarily a corner. I mean, he came up as a center fielder, but the artificial turf in Montreal destroyed his knees. So that made him move over to the corner outfield.
Okay, but he started as a center fielder.
Yeah.
Okay, so when he was inducted in the Hall of Fame, they asked Fogarty in Cooperstown to play that song for his induction. So in 2010, when those two were inducted in the Hall of Fame, Fogarty played that song at Andre Dawson's and admission into the Hall of Fame. And here was the other thing, and then we'll move on. It was based on Casey at the Bat. Did you ever read that? Remember Casey at the Bat?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, and the Mudville Nine. I forgot the Mudville Nine. Anyways, it was just, go back and listen to that song. Oh yeah, I forgot. I had a little thing I was going to do here. Let me do this real quick. Okay, back to Bill. Had to do
I love
that.
the organ.
I was a little late on the organ music. Well, shoot, Bill, let me know what you want to talk about.
Well, I have a quote, but we'll save that for the end.
Oh, yeah.
So in terms of spring training, couple interesting things, and want to see if any of this really moves your radar as kind of a casual baseball fan. So the Padres are in, right? So we have this big rivalry budding up, Padres and Dodgers in the National League. That to me is the most compelling storyline. And I've got a lot of late nights ahead of me this summer to finally see a team step up and challenge the Dodgers. And the Padres are doing this crazy thing. I know it's really outside of the box. They're spending money on players and spending money on the team in an effort to bring more fans to the park to make more money long term. So that to me, I think if you're looking for a team to support, the Padres are going to be fun as hell.
Yeah, I was thinking about the NL West, and that's the big key, is that they're going out and spending the money this year. And the baseball money is crazy. I was thinking about the rest of the West. Who's the rest of the West? Arizona and who are the rest of the NL West?
You got Arizona, Colorado. And they're not really in terms of projections, and then San Francisco. I'll put it to you this way. Those three teams combined have a 7% chance of making the playoffs. So they're not really factors. So that is, you would wish that the teams at the bottom would be a little more competitive. But honestly, we see that in all the sports. Look at the NFL. Were the Jets competitive this year? Look at the NBA. The teams at the bottom aren't really competitive. So we kind of see that in all sports. It sucks, especially in baseball, where if you're a fan of that team, you have 162 games where your team has no chance. But man, Dodgers, Padres, those are going to be fun. Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah, the small markets. You always worry about the small market teams. Pittsburgh, Milwaukee. How are they going to do with?
I would like to ban that phrase though.
Small market.
Yes, because yes, some markets are bigger than others. Absolutely true. But you know what? When you look at the owner's net worth, they all have $1 billion. And when you look at the money that's coming in from Major League Baseball, advanced media, Major League Baseball television deals, they're all extremely large market teams. So I would like to officially ban that phrase from existence.
I like that. That's a good point because, yeah, these guys all got deep pockets.
And the other thing is, like, the Kansas City Royals just sold 2 years ago, and it's already up 20%, the value of the franchise. So it's no baseball franchise has ever lost money in the history of the game. It's a foolproof investment. That's the other thing you got to keep in mind. Even if they're not raking in money year after year, they can sell that asset for more than they paid for it with no risk. Imagine you getting into an investment with absolutely no risk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're crazy. Just in our market, the original buying price for the Hornets was 30 million.
Is that right?
And that was late 80s, mid 80s, late 80s. And then the football team was like 96, and I think it was 100 and some million. And then of course he sold it for 2.3 billion to the present owner who he didn't have to use a Visa card even. He just uses Apple Pay and say, "Thank you very much, go away. I own the team." So
speaking of the Hornets, we'll have to talk about them in a couple of weeks because they are worth watching. For the first time, I've lived in Charlotte 5 years now. This is the first time I'm actually going out of my way to watch the Hornets.
Well, it's kind of fun because I've been here since the beginning and had season tickets when they began. And what I would say is the young ball kid has brought back the excitement that we haven't seen since Alonzo Mourning. And
wow.
And Alonzo Mourning hit a jumper at the end to get us to a playoff game. But in your heart of hearts, if I ask you, what do you remember about Alonzo Mourning? Well, you're going to remember Miami. You don't remember Charlotte. But in Charlotte's mentality, he was our guy. So this is our guy. So I think, and the other thing is, nobody's been able to go to the game. So people are going to be starved to go out and see this kid play.
Yep, they can go in 8 days. We're recording this, I believe, March 13th will be the first time that fans will be back in the arena, and that is awesome.
So that'll be, I forget what the percentages are, 30%, so maybe 3,000.
They're going low, though. I think the Hornets themselves are starting lower than even what the state will allow. But either way, it's great to get him in. And yeah, LaMelo's the headline, but I got to give them credit because I questioned these moves at the time. But they've built a nice little team. Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, PJ Washington in the draft. They got some pieces where you could see this in a couple of years, they might be a contender.
Let me ask you another baseball question. So what do you, I just heard this off the cuff the other day and you can educate me on this, that so AAA, they've decided they're going to go ahead and delay till May. And what I heard was, and we have a AAA franchise in this market, and there are a lot of good ones: Buffalo, Indianapolis, Columbus, you name them.
And this is not a small market either. This is media market number 25.
Yeah. So that being said, and it's about 10,000 occupancy, but last year was a total zero nut on income. I mean, they, for these minor league teams. So what I heard was that they were talking about bringing them in a month later in hopes that they could, most of their places are 6,000 to 10,000. And so that they could start right off the bat and, have 3,000 to 6,000 fans, because that's where their money's generated. They do make money in minor leagues off ticket sales and food and concessions.
Yeah, that's the bulk of it. And parking. Yep.
Yeah. And so it's a whole different market than major league, where they're charging you, $1,000 for seats to go see the Yankees come to town, whatever. So, what did you hear? Is that right?
Yeah. So they had these alternate sites last year because there was no minor league season. So for the Cubs, it was in South Bend, Indiana. So they were all within like 90-minute drive of the major league team. And the thought was give the minor leaguers some place to practice, but then have them close by if we need them on the major league roster. So that's what they're going to do for the first month of the season. In typical Major League Baseball fashion, they didn't think about this until like last week. And so they're just scrambling to get this figured out. Like the Knights, the minor league teams have already rolled out their entire schedules that included home games in April. Right. So now they've got to rework that whole thing. But really, my understanding is Major League Baseball does not want to cut the line in terms of vaccine distribution. But before they put their players at the minor leagues out to all these ballparks, they want them vaccinated. So they're hoping this buys them another month to get them vaccinated. The one thing I don't understand is right now you kind of have them bubbled up in Arizona and Florida. Why not leave them there for the month of May instead of spreading them out all over the country? That would be the one thing I would question. Just leave them where they are now for another month, and then let's get going.
Yeah, well, that makes baseball sense. It doesn't make minor league income sense. I mean, in that what we just heard is Major League Baseball, they're cutting all these A and AA teams across the country. They downsized their feeder mechanism to save money, but yet at the same time, they weren't willing to put money back into their minor league franchises. They're just affiliations, in name. For example, we're the Chicago White Sox, but what are the White Sox giving us financially and backing? Now, as I understand, they're going to improve the kids' salaries.
Yes. So there was a give and take. So the traditionalists are obviously upset that there's less minor league teams and less minor league cities. And I get that, but it does make logical sense. Teams are so much better at evaluating players using data. You don't need 1,000 different minor leagues because you're better at picking which players deserve to be there. So that's why they made that change. And now all these minor leagues are officially affiliated with the major league teams. They have written agreements. So the Chicago White Sox have a ownership control over all these teams now. So they bumped up the pay. There's less players. And you're going to see less stories of kind of the guy who's 28 years old and pops through out of nowhere. That guy's not going to have a spot in the minor leagues anymore, but that's okay. It should be more of a refined process. In terms of we really shouldn't see a difference going to the AAA games here in Charlotte. If anything, the experience should just be better.
Well, I do think on the other side of this with A and AA, I mean, for example, I think, don't get me going about college basketball this year and how I think it sucks overall. But what I was going to say is in the college level baseball, if you sign up and go to college to play baseball, now you can be drafted by so-and-so, and I think even sign your contract. But in college baseball, when you sign, you're there 3 years, kind of like football at the NFL level for different reasons. So what I can see in their minds, they're going, okay, the A and AA level, for the most part, especially single A, we're going to strengthen because we're going to use the college level as that feeder. And out of that level, I mean, I'm sure there are guys that could go straight to AAA from college or major leagues, but the LeBron James of the world are few and far between. It takes a while to orchestrate the growth of some of these kids. So,
especially pitchers. You want pitchers from college.
Yeah, because they got one thing: throw it hard.
Yep.
You got to teach them a second pitch, a slider, a curveball, a spitter.
Well, that's another topic for another show, is all the foreign substances that are involved in baseball.
Wait a second, I got to rub my hat here. I'm thinking of the Negro Brothers.
I want to get to the Negro League Museum in Kansas City. That's on my short list of cities to visit. But I do have one more storyline for this Major League Baseball season I want to get your take on. Okay. Shohei Ohtani. Yeah. This is the gentleman that came over from Japan. He's had some injury issues. He's avoided that Tommy John surgery. But once again this year, Joe Madden and the Los Angeles Angels with Mike Trout are going to make him a two-way player. Right. He's going to pitch every 5 days, and he's going to play designated hitter. So that's another reason to stay up late and watch baseball. Literally, I will watch every Ohtani start and at bat. My question to you is, we haven't seen this in a while. Do you think this is sustainable? Especially he's having that right forearm issue that typically leads to Tommy John. And do you expect to see more of these kind of multi-dimensional athletes with just the hyper focus on nutrition and training and all that? You would think that performance-wise athletes would be set up to do this today.
Yeah, I do think you would, but the rate limiting step for me is the word pitcher. It's like you said with the sabermetrics of today, and the whole key is just throw strikes and throw the ball 100 miles an hour. And when your arm goes out, we'll put you on a bench, or we'll sit you like the kid in Washington or whatever.
Strasburg.
Yeah. And I go, well, You know, I don't know, but to answer your question, yeah, there's always, I do now, whether it takes a unique athlete to be Bo Jackson, you know, I
Or
mean,
Dion.
or Dion, Dion and Bo Jackson are generational kind of guys that come along. There are a lot of great athletes. I don't know. I have to think. I mean, that goes back to football where guys could play both sides of the ball. The last guy in the NFL was a guy named Chuck Bednarik, who played for the Eagles. I think he played both ways, played the whole darn game, chewed on guys' ears and fingers and stuff. And that's even before my time, but I think he's 40s, 50s. I don't remember. But that being said, on the baseball level, yes, I think you can do that with the nutrition and the training and the stuff and the things like that. And remember too, you're talking about designated hitter. So, I mean, you're asking some guy to step in there, 3 times a game and take a bat. So,
and they originally had him playing in the outfield because obviously he has a great arm and he's a super athlete. But that's the one concession they've made is, we shouldn't put him out there in the field. Let's just have him be a designated hitter.
Well, that'll be his transition. If he stays in baseball, his transition will be that they'll move him out of being a pitcher if he's that great an athlete, and they'll be the guy that they turn over and put him at first base.
And it's funny you bring that up. I hadn't considered that. The Angels are so desperate for pitching that you hope they're not being too aggressive with him because they need him. If they want to get Mike Trout, the biggest star in the game, in the playoffs, they need Ohtani to make 30 starts for them this year. They're not going to make it.
Well, I hope so. I'm excited about baseball, and part of that comes because I know you now, but I always loved baseball. But in my era, it was kind of like New England was in football was the Yankees of my youth. And after a while, we got so tired of the Yankees winning all the time. And it was because they spent the money way before its time. And it wasn't until 1960 with Bill Mazeroski, bottom of the ninth, 7th game, knocks them out, wins the World Series for Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh was owned by there was an Ohio connection then at that time. Anyways, that's off tangent. So yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And you mentioned the Cubs, that division. I have the playoff projections up from Fangraphs. That division, the NL Central, Cardinals 33% chance to win the division. Brewers 29%. Cubs 20%. Reds 18%. That thing is wide open.
What about?
Oh, they are not in good shape. They are
the Indians.
They are a 9% to win the division, 19% to make the playoffs. Frankly, if I was an Indians fan, I'm a Cubs fan and I'm pissed off, but that's another story for another day. But if I was an Indians fan, I'd be pissed off too. They just traded away their best player, Francisco Lindor. Yeah. One of the most exciting players in the game. Traded him to New York. The Mets immediately signed him to an extension. We've already talked about how there's no small market teams. The Indians could have obviously afforded to keep him. And I legitimately feel sorry for those fans that you never get to really attach yourself to a superstar because by the time they get to close to free agency, they just trade him away. So the White Sox are going to win that division. And I hope Tony La Russa gets fired or thrown in jail or retires sooner than later. And that would be an ideal scenario. The White Sox are going to be incredibly fun to watch. We've been fortunate here in Charlotte to see Yoan Moncada, Eloy Jimenez, Michael Kopech, all these guys come through. And now you're going to get to see them in the major leagues. And Tim Anderson, I don't know if he played much in Charlotte. He kind of pretty much went from Double-A to Major League Baseball, but that's their starting shortstop. Tim Anderson was on radio in Chicago last Friday, and he said, F it. We are the best team in the American League. So they got some swagger. And that's what I love about modern day baseball. And it's really been pushed by the minorities and the diversity in the game is flip your bat, stare at your home run. It's a game. Have fun. Show some swagger.
I get tired of all that, all that stuff. Don't get me going because I'm gonna.
It's like golf. Show some of any sport. Show some emotion. It just makes it more fun. Like at the Super Bowl when Tom Brady and Tyrann Mathieu were getting at it, that was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. In fact, when they open the games here, I'm taking Dr. Zeus with me to sit and stand. So don't get me going on that. I still got a whole collection of those books back here. Well, tell me about your quote of the day, Billy.
Oh, I have not memorized it, so I have to get my note here. Oh, here we go.
I got one too.
Here it is. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It has been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, it's a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good and that could be good again. And if you haven't been to the Field of Dreams in Dyersville in Iowa, get your ass up there because it's a cool place. Yeah, Cooperstown too, in the Finger Lakes. I want to go back there really bad. Well, I got one quote for you. I had a couple, but I like this one. It's Harry Carey. He said, two of them. He said, someday the Cubs will be in the World Series. And the other, that one obviously came to pass. But it did. But the best one, which is great for, like, we have fun with this or any broadcaster, he says, broadcast the way a fan would. Yep. So you put your hat on and oh my goodness, the gentleman from LA. Vin Scully. He always, when you heard Vin Scully, you thought he was sitting in the room with you, talking about the game. He did many of those by himself. Yeah, crazy. That's amazing. And to that point, John Sciambi used to be, well, he still is with ESPN, the redheaded guy, kind of a bigger guy. He's the new Cubs play-by-play TV guy. Really? And that's the new vibe you're seeing from this generation of broadcasters, is just more relaxed, more fan driven, just not taking it so seriously. It's just a game. So I'm really glad you brought that up, because it makes it so much more fun to watch when the play-by-play person is more like your friend having a beer next to you. Well, I think the great sportscasters in any sport are that way. Like, hello, friend. Okay, folks. Well, Bill, it was a ball, man. I enjoyed talking a little baseball. I got my paraphernalia. I got Wrigley Field in the background. And it was a lot of fun today. And remember, we be picking and we be putting. You can find us on all the platforms. You can find us on YouTube, subscribe, punch the bell, do all that stuff. Listen to Bill on the Golf Shop radio show. It's on Saturday mornings and during the week on all those networks cross country. You can find it online at TuneIn. And we'll look. And the plural form of Cracker Jack is Cracker Jack. There you go. So for all you people out there, there's no S in Cracker Jack when you sing the next time. We're on a mission to change that across the world this summer. We're going to listen to our soundtracks. One ballpark at a time. One ballpark at a time, one box at a time. And don't forget you get a toy in every box. Okay, Billy, we'll see you next week, man. Bye.